Week 1, the Jacksonville Jaguars starting quarterback Nick Foles got hurt. It was literally like during the first quarter of the game. He hurt his shoulder out for a long time. And he was replaced by Gardner Minshew. And a lot of people were surprised when Gardner Minshew came in and did really, really well. I was not. I did a film analysis of him in college. He's really good. But in that time, he played and replaced Nick Foles. He had 13 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He went 4-4 as a starter. And he lifted up the Jaguars team. They didn't win a ton. They were 4-4 with him. But, man, the key to me was that the Jaguars' offensive line is not very good. And Gardner Minshew was able to run around and extend plays and keep plays alive and turn what would have been a sack into a big gain downfield. He can create plays he can turn a negative play and create and turn it into a positive play. Now, week 10 during the bye week, they said, hey, Gardner, we like you. You're doing well. The whole fan base loves you, but we're going to bench you. We're going to go with Nick Foles. We're on our bye week. Nick Foles is now healthy. Week 11, we're going to start Nick Foles. And that's what they did. And I didn't like the move, but I understood, okay, the Jaguars are paying Nick Foles a ton of money. They paid him a gigantic contract. They brought him in to be their starting quarterback. He can't lose his job to injury. Fine, whatever, I guess. Okay, Nick Foles is now the guy. I think it's the wrong move, but whatever. And week 11, the first start back with Nick Foles, the Jaguars lost to the Colts 31-13. I was like, oh, that's not good. And the little thing I noticed is, Nick Foles struggles with pressure. He can't get away from pressure the way Gardner Minshew could. And then the next week, the Jaguars lost to the Titans 42-20. Interesting. At that point, the Jaguars are now 0-3 in games where Nick Foles is the starting quarterback. Then on Sunday, they just played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And in the Jaguars' first 3 possessions, Nick Foles had 3 turnovers. He had an interception. He had 2 fumbles. One of those fumbles got returned for a touchdown. He was literally, instead of scoring points, he was giving the other team points. And after those first 3 possessions, he had 3 more. And those next 3 possessions, he went 3 and out. First down, second down, third down, no conversion, you punt. 4 plays, other team's ball. So at halftime, it was 25-0. The Jaguars were losing 25-0. And they said, hey, you know what? It's not working with Nick Foles. We're going to put Gardner Minshew in. Oh, what a shock. Really? You mean the guy who's better? You're going to play the better quarterback. About time. And my first reaction was just like that. I was like, oh, God, of course. You got to play the better quarterback. And I was kind of frustrated. Yeah, you didn't realize a long time ago you should have played Gardner Minshew. And here's what happened. Gardner Minshew came in, had 2 scoring drives, had a touchdown, led a field goal drive. Then later in the game, he took the team all the way down the field. It was 3rd and goal. He threw a pass into the end zone. It bounced off his receiver's hands, got intercepted. Really, I think Gardner Minshew should have led 3 scoring drives in that game. Only led 2 because one of them was picked off after hitting his receiver's hands. And to me, it was incredibly satisfying to watch Gardner Minshew succeed. It was vindicating. I was like, exactly. I did a film analysis about Gardner Minshew. I said, look, he's better than Nick Foles. He should be playing, but I understand why he's not. The money makes sense. I get it. And I was really frustrated at first watching Gardner Minshew not play because, in my opinion, he's the better quarterback in Jacksonville. Now, here's the reality. The Jaguars are now 0-4 with Nick Foles as their starting quarterback this year. When Nick Foles starts, they lose games. Now, people struggle to embrace Gardner Minshew, the now starting quarterback of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He has an average arm. His arm strength isn't what I would love to see. And he was a 6th-round pick. Who is this guy? Who's this Gardner Minshew guy? Why does he have the right to be the starting quarterback of the Jaguars? People have a hard time embracing him, in the media especially. Even former quarterbacks. I go, what are you looking at? But here's what I see. Gardner Minshew galvanizes that football team. He brings an energy to the Jaguars that Nick Foles doesn't bring. And his ability to extend plays, to avoid sacks, and escape pressure makes him more successful. So the Jaguars have named Gardner Minshew to be their starting quarterback next week. And again, my first reaction was, finally, about time. But then I took a step back and I realized, it's actually good Gardner Minshew didn't play in the last 3 weeks for the Jaguars. It's good that Gardner Minshew was not named the starter when Nick Foles came back. The Jaguars actually did Gardner Minshew a gigantic favor. Just imagine if when Nick Foles came back from an injury, they'd gone with Gardner Minshew. Imagine the pressure. Imagine what would have happened anytime Gardner Minshew missed a throw or had some miscue or something went wrong. Everybody would just be looking around going, you got Nick Foles on the bench. You're paying Nick Foles $52 million guaranteed. Why aren't you paying Nick Foles? Everybody would have been waiting for the minute they go back to Nick Foles. Instead, they went with Nick Foles when he returned from the injury, and we got definitive proof. Oh, we've seen Nick Foles a lot this year. He started 4 games for the Jaguars. They've lost all 4, and he hasn't moved the ball as well as Gardner Minshew. So now if Gardner Minshew struggles, you can say, there's no argument now to be like, well, we got to bring Nick Foles back. You can say, we already tried that. We did it. It didn't work. The fans want Gardner Minshew. We've seen proof that Gardner Minshew is a better quarterback who moves the ball better. He is a better leader, a more galvanizing leader. Gardner Minshew's the guy. The Jaguars made it even more easy to now support Gardner Minshew and more difficult to support Nick Foles. That's what happened. I don't think this is actually what the Jaguars wanted. My guess is the Jaguars front office really wanted to rally behind Nick Foles and have him be the guy. Clearly, they paid him a 4-year deal, $88 million, $52 million guaranteed. They wanted Nick Foles to be the guy. But their plan, forcing Nick Foles back into the starting role when really Gardner Minshew was playing better, backfired on them. And now it's going to be even harder to ever embrace Nick Foles. Because again, we've seen that story. It doesn't work. So man, I really think that, 3 weeks ago, if you'd played Gardner Minshew, opinions would have been split. People would have been like, I like Minshew, but what about Nick Foles? He's on the bench. Now, because they played Nick Foles, we know how good or really how bad he is and how much he's not the answer in Jacksonville. Because they let Nick Foles play, it's going to be harder for him to ever come back. So I think the Jaguars are 4-8. That's not very good. They're not a good football team. And they have 4 games left. They're not going to win all 4 games. Gardner Minshew's not the secret sauce that's magically going to win a bunch of games for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's okay. He's really good. I like him. I think he's a better quarterback on their roster. If I'm the Jaguars, I embrace Gardner Minshew and I build around him. I really do. But the pressure's now off Gardner Minshew. He doesn't need to win. He's been handed a bad football team, and all he has to do is do better than Nick Foles. He has to move the ball well and score some points. That's all he has to do. Hopefully he wins. I would love to see that. But the reality is if the Jaguars want to win games the rest of this year, Gardner Minshew gives them a better opportunity to win football games than Nick Foles did because of his ability to extend plays and move around, and also his galvanizing leadership, the way he rallies his troops and rallies his football team. Gardner Minshew is significantly better as a starting quarterback in Jacksonville than Nick Foles was.